goes. Can anyone see something on the screen now?
Yes, we
Oh,
can.
good. Okay, let me maximize that. Is that better?
Well, I'm sure it's going to be fine.
Okay, so
somebody comes in, you'll see somebody, it'll say admit.
I've just admitted somebody. Yes, I've just admitted somebody.
Wonderful. Wonderful.
Okay, so is the screen clear for people? Can I proceed, or can we proceed?
Yes.
Great. So this is a presentation by Mannana and myself on the Balemi Agricultural Survey. We're going to share the report. I'm going to talk a little, and we are going to keep this brief as we can. So Bishop, if you can keep reminding us on time, we'd be grateful. I will talk a little bit about the methodology of the survey. Mannana will talk about some key points about the respondents. I'll then talk a little bit about land, Mannana on water, myself on security, Mannana on produce, myself on training, and then Mannana will finish with challenges and way forward. We're going to try and keep this to 20 minutes. And if Bishop, if you actually make us keep it to 20 minutes, that gives us time for discussion. So let me start up. I think the survey was circulated, so we're hoping that you've got some idea. So I'm going to talk a little bit about the survey itself. So this is a joint project of the three organizations. That's WiARM, Mannana is here, the Orange Farm Human Rights Advice Center, who I don't think are here, but should have been sent an invite, and Lawyers for Human Rights. And the funding for the project came from my WITS research funds. So the aim of the project was to collect information on urban agriculture in and around the Val townships, and that was fairly openly interpreted. Emma's just joined us. In terms of anyone that came who was doing agriculture. We also had a skill building component to it, and we did stress, and this may be a point for discussion later, that we're not a funding organization. On page 8, there is a table of the activities. As you can see, there was a lot. But in summary, we spent a lot of time working with urban agricultural activists and practitioners developing the survey. We piloted the survey. We had groundwork, which was publicizing survey days using small flyers, volunteer teams going out to publicize, and then actually the survey days where people came in to a fixed point, and you can see the different townships and areas that we conducted those in. We also had a number of mobile days where we went out to groups of people. As you can see, we had 2 skill building workshops during the course, although I think a lot of the skill building was as we were going along for the various aspects of the survey days and so on. And there is a little discussion on something that we termed Q education. And this was, we realized that we had captive audiences waiting to take the survey. And so volunteers, as shown here, spoke to people, and we developed 2 information sheets, one on composting and one on crop rotation there at the back of the report, which we handed out and used as discussion, what can you say, to initiate discussion within the queues. And as you can see, it was actually very lively and very successful. We used Google Forms for the survey, but we were administrating it face-to-face using tablets and cell phones. We can talk about that if anyone's interested in that. And we got 606 responses, and that's what this is now based on. So I'll hand over to Mannana to talk a little bit about the respondents. And Mannana, just tell me what page you want me to be on if you do want me to move. Mannana, come in, please.
Can everyone hear me?
Yes.
Okay. Thank you so much. Dr. David, I don't have that page. I don't know, but I think it's page 12 to 17. I'm very sorry I joined late. I'm coming from a radio interview and my head is just everywhere. So I've asked also our advisory board chairperson, Ms. Poki, to engage and in terms of giving the responses. But to answer to this one of the respondents, we have most women who came to do the interview, the survey, and most of them are small scale agricultural and township and informal areas. So many of them, they were older than they were older women, often over 50 years of age. We are hoping to engage more young women, but yeah, we're getting there slowly but surely. And I think most of them as well, they're doing the household's food to supplement their income and also be able to feed their children. So yeah, I think that is under the response. That's what I have. Ms. Poki, if there's anything that you want to add. Yes, thank you so much.
Shall I carry on?
It's good, Mannana. You can continue. I think Mannana should continue.
So under the respondents, I think that's about it regarding the report that the survey report on the responses. And then we have also, I don't know if I should go to water, David.
Well, let's go through the report. Just follow. I'll do land, and then you can come to water. Is that okay?
Okay. Please help me because I don't have my papers with me. As I'm saying, I'm actually at the radio station as I'm talking in the background. It's not so good for me. So
okay, don't worry, Mannana. People have had the report before, and we've got question and answers, so we can come in on that.
Yeah. Okay.
Maybe
Thanks.
you could locate the report on your device, possibly.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
So if I just cover on land, we asked them what land people were using, and here this is on page 17. What you can see is obviously the largest single group of people was on reserve land in their neighborhood. So reserve land is land in the township that has been allocated to some institution at some point, but not used. So these are the large open spaces in the township. And importantly to notice, it's a later point that may come up for discussion. Township residents generally don't have transport, and so they're using land close to them. The second area is the church, school, and clinic land, and really this is land that's enclosed, and this is quite important when we come on to security. It's premises of a state or a church or some other body where there's land that's people have been allowed to farm on under one form or another of agreement. And two important factors about that, as I said, first of all, there's a fence when we come on to security, but there's generally also a water supply, which is very important. And then there's, as you can see, there are some people who are on agricultural holdings and plots, and some people were farming probably the more commercially orientated away from their own areas. If we look at the size of the land that's farmed, basically you can see that the vast majority of respondents were farming on fairly smaller areas, and that obviously has implications for the nature of their agricultural activities. We just have to be careful here on that sometimes that where you've got collective farming, or collective, and I should say we're using gardening, farming, agriculture as synonyms here, that it wasn't always clear. People, if they were farming in a group, 20 people might be saying that they had 2 hectares, but in fact, their land, of course, is only a share of that. If we talked about the rights to land, and this is a table, unfortunately, it splits over the 2 pages. You can see that there's a kind of a spread here. There's some 30% of people said that they own the land that they farmed on. 33, just over 33% said that they had an agreement which they didn't pay, and they didn't pay rent. So this will be typically, obviously, those churches and clinics and so on. And then 21% said that they had no right to the land; they were simply using it. So, and then there's a couple of other things as well. So obviously, this is quite just to highlight. At the back of the report, we're not going to talk in detail about it, but there's a number of kind of analytical suggestions or points. And one of those is that there's a little bit of a paradox around land. Land emerges as at the top of the training needs. We're going to briefly cover training needs. And it also is at the top of the challenges. So it's top of mind from our respondents was issues of land and availability of land and rights to land. And yet, if those of us that are familiar with the township, which I assume probably everybody here is, we know there's vast tracts of land that are not being used. So there's a kind of a paradox where there's a land hunger, and yet there's also available land which is actually not being used and becomes problematic as sorts of crime and dumping and so on. We said we wouldn't cover soil quality, but Mannana, if you can please take over on water.
Thank you. I think the findings were that we find out that people are mostly using municipal water. They're using borehole, buckets and hose pipe. And with what is happening, I mean, in the country or in our region with the scarcity of water, you find that these are challenges that the farmers are facing. So many of them responded that they don't have enough water. And if they were able to get more of that, then they will be able to produce more and be successful in what they are doing. So irrigation system is also the problem, the challenge as well. And the water tanks, they come, but it rarely so. They don't get them regularly. So they really rely, most of them, on municipal water and the rainwater, as we're having lots of rain now. So basically that's what the people who were surveyed indicated in terms of water issues. Thank you.
Right. So I'm just going to say something quickly on security. I think the fact that you can see that there's widespread problems around security. So this was primarily theft of produce or animals, although the vast majority of our respondents were growing fruit and vegetables, theft of fencing, theft of equipment, and then vandalism, which of course overlaps with theft. And I think this is really a reflection on the social cohesion of our townships. We know that these are low trust environments. It's one of the major challenges that any development project faces. There are also personal safety was much less prevalent, but of course is a much more serious issue that where people are afraid to go out farming on land because of their personal safety. In terms of what security measures do you have in place, by far the biggest was fencing. And when we asked them, what do you think is the best methods for security? Again, fencing is absolutely top. So I think when we talk about agricultural projects, unfortunately in the townships and possibly elsewhere, that we also, as an absolutely essential a piece of equipment, if you like, there has to be fencing. We were also interested about the relationship with community patrols and whether that can be combined, whether we can build social capital between these two groups. But certainly at the moment, what was top of mind was very much fencing. So I'll leave that on security. We can ask questions. And if Mannana, you can come on to produce.
Okay, I think it's the produce would be farmers that they're growing a wide variety of crops, vegetables, the herbs, and some of them they do this mostly to feed the family, and some of them they're doing this to sell at the street corners. But they produce, they've others who are farming in bigger spaces, they got challenges with the market. And so this is actually how they actually indicated on the marketing, the produce. And then just to go back a bit, the response regarding the the agriculture or any support that they're getting, the assistance that they're getting from the state. I think we've skipped that in that, David.
Sorry, just help me, Mannana. Which?
I think it's page 19 to 22. Response opinion of state assistant.
Oh, sorry, you're going to cover that. Okay,
Yeah.
I'll get there shortly.
So they've got mixed feelings actually, or mixed experiences with the government assistance. Some indicated that agricultural extension officers, they are there, but they're not getting full assistance from the extension officers, and other extension officers, they've got their own favorites. If they're supposed to get something from the government, they're not getting, they're sending them elsewhere. So this is quite a challenge for our local farmers, and some of them, they've got actual contacts with the extension officials, like they're treated differently when it comes to support from the government, and also the local councillors, the municipal offices. They actually said, I think out of 100, probably 95% of them, they say the support from the government is extremely poor. So yeah, this is why we are sitting where we are as black farmers in the townships and plots and farms. Thank you.
Okay, Mannana, can I go on to training?
Yes, in that. I think.
Okay, so one of the questions we asked was what training would you like? We actually used a fairly innovative and popular thing. We produced cards with different training topics on them and asked them to rank them physically, and then we captured it. We had 2 training sets of questions, so there was 12 different topics. What we've done is using a scoring system to put them all together. And as you can see, I did mention this earlier, the joint first was land rights and land use as a training topic, and then jointly with soil health improvement and soil. I've already said there was a paradox around land. There's also a slight paradox, no, there is a paradox around land use, because there's a demand for training on this, and yet the 3/4 of the respondents thought that their soil quality was good. I mean, they're not incompatible, but there is something that needs to be investigated further there. I think when we look at, I mean, I hope that this gives us sort of some direction on training needs, and therefore those that are training can respond. Just a couple of caveats, though, on that. We just need to interpret this carefully. So if we look at maximizing your water use, it comes down at number 6, which is in the middle of the thing. But remember that when we talked about water, 3/4 of the respondents said they had enough water. So obviously, if you have enough water, there should be a little desire for training on water use because you have it. So even though this might be ranked as number 6, given that that comes from 25% of the respondents, you can see there is a need for that. And then I think also, just because something is low down doesn't mean that we should not be training on it. And I think fish farming is an example of that. Almost nobody is fish farming. And there was a very little demand using this question for fish farming. But I think we all understand that there's a lot of potential in fish farming as a source of protein, but also as a source of manure for crops, and then crops can be fed to the fish. So we can also think, I think we should also be aware that we can think about training as strategic in terms of stimulating ideas on agricultural practices that may not be actually taking place on a wide scale, but could indeed do that. Okay, Mannana, if you could take up challenges and the way forward, and then that will bring us to the end of the presentation and we can take questions.
Okay, thank you, Ntate. I think major challenges were identified during the survey, and there were several barriers. The land issue is a big one. In fact, it's a burning issue. Water shortages, theft and security issues. Limited state support is also one of the challenges. Lack of training, like just indicated now, David, that they really need some sort of training. And because they are eager to learn, they are eager to grow. It's just that there's so many barriers that are actually hindering them to move forward. So WiARM's way forward, we can propose that community feedback must be done. Research findings should be shared back with the participating farmers who have been part of the survey from day one, and strengthening partnerships, collaboration between researchers, community organization, farmers, and I think also policy engagement findings should be presented to municipalities, the Sidibeng, as we are doing this in the district of Sidibeng, and some of the municipal, our local Mfuleni, one of the official I remember was one of the people who were surveyed, and I think we need to also go back to them and the agricultural departments and see how best we can now work together going forward, and the practical support which the people really need, which includes like soil testing, irrigation support, farmers training. So because the purpose of this survey was to see what is it that is making our people not to succeed under the name agriculture or under the business of agriculture. So all these findings have given us an indication on really the problem where it is, and I'm glad that we will have a way forward. Yeah, I think I'll end there and give back to the floor. Thank you.
Thanks. Bishop, will you chair? I'm assuming you want the report still on the screen so that people can refer to it.